Welcome to the Workbench and welcome to another episode of Wheels Wings TV. Today we have the new 1/350 scale Montana class battleship from Joyard. Let's have a look. First up, we have our nice one-piece molded hull with all of the hull plating nicely molded in, so it's not just a big smooth hunk of plastic. We also have very noticeable thickened belt armor along the sides here. The Montana was designed as an improvement on the Iowa class, so the overall dimensions were very similar. You can, of course, check out our review of the Missouri kit as well. A lot of parts are shared between these two. But just like the Missouri, very nicely detailed hull moldings. A few little injection pips to take care of and a few little mold lines to take down, but nothing too crazy. Most of the ugly bits are on the inside where they're of little consequence. So, not too bad there. Once again, have these bilge keels molded in place. We don't have to mess around with those. You just want to watch the mold lines. But off to a good start. We've got our one-piece main deck with that lovely wood plank texture molded in. Once again, very similar to the Iowa class, but still very different. Very nice molded texture around the hatches on the deck. Very nice non-skid texture up on the very tip of the bow. Big ejection pins on the bottom, or we don't care about that. Looks very good. And moving upward from the deck, nice one big piece molding. First layer of superstructure. Some more nice wood plank detail on top and some very finely molded details along the side. Now we don't have the doors molded through like we did on the Missouri, but I mean at this scale you can always just paint those black and it'll look like it's open. It's very nice little conduits and ladder rungs molded already in. So, good indication we got multi-part molds coming in from the sides and from the top and bottom. Of course, indicator of the biggest difference between a Iowa and a Montana. We've got 4 main gun turrets. Next sprue, we've got our propellers, few other deck fittings. I think I'd be safe in saying this is a carryover from the Missouri kit. So the Montana was based on the Iowa class, so there were a lot of similarities. Little bit of flash in the propellers there. You have to. But we've got some beautiful deck detail molded in, some more lovely little bits of plumbing and joint, I guess would be weld lines on the real thing, all molded all over the visible surfaces. So Unlike other older battleship kits where it's just smooth plastic everywhere, this actually goes to the effort to make it look like it's made up of a bunch of little pieces. And of course they mold where there's an undercut, they do try to mold the underside. So if you're looking up at the model and you catch underneath, at least there's a little bit of visible detail there where it should be. Some big chunks of ejector pins sticking out from some of these parts. You'll have to be careful when attaching those that they don't interfere with the fit of other parts. Next sprue, we got some gun tubs and probably part of the bridge, some superstructure components with some nice ladders molded in place, some mast components, probably the there's a technical term for that, the breakwater for the bow. Shields around these tubs are not super thin, but commendably thin regardless. Although they are festooned with big ejector pin pieces all over the backside, so you have to make sure you get those all cut off flush so they don't interfere with the fit of any of the other parts. Once again, where you could potentially see underneath, they've got some detail molded in. Got more prop shafts and mounting brackets and some more superstructure components with more of that lovely crisp little detail all over them. Some conduits, some ladders, various little different types of ladders. Very nice and sharp. These raised panel lines stay nice and crisp right around the side. More deck and superstructure components. There's probably, I'm going to assume this piece goes around here because we got some more doors, so there's probably going to be some decks in between here. I think this is part of the bridge, so we've got our windows molded solid here, but that's kind of atypical for most ship kits. So again, the undercut, some nice little structural detail on the undersides. Very nice. Next, we've got our secondary gun turrets, and we have 8 in total. The actual turret itself is nicely molded in one piece. There's some very nice texture and detail on all the sides. Hatches, doors, ladder rungs. Very, very nice. Very nice detail on that. And then simple base plate and gun barrels, which are molded with hollow muzzles, so you can use these right out of the box. Don't have to replace them if you don't want to. But it looks like they've already accommodated for metal barrels with a separate mount here, so you don't even have to cut these off and drill them if you get some barrels. Those will look very, very nice. These are, of course, a bigger, different style than the ones on the Iowa class. I believe they were still 5-inch guns, but it was a bigger turret. And some more lovely multi-part molded pieces. Some more of our superstructure. This one we do have our doorways molded all the way through. A little bit of flash, but they are molded clear through. Some more beautiful little surface details. You could probably almost hear that, the nicely molded deck planking, wooden deck. Joyard definitely take modern injection molding methods to the maximum for detail. If they can mold a part with from every possible side to maximize detail, they definitely do it, and I think it really pays off. Some beautiful little junction boxes. I'm pretty sure that's some little tiny control panel. Very, very fine details. Very, very nice. Some nice little ladder rungs. Even the little, I think they're called eyebrows above the portholes are all molded in place. Very, very nice. Now the Bofors guns. The main gun turrets. The Carly floats and lockers and various other little bits, as well as the float planes and a whole bunch of other little bits are, as far as I can tell, exactly the same as those provided in the Missouri kit. So you can, if you want to check out those more in depth, I'll put a link to that part of the video. Still can't get over the beautifully molded radial engine and the cowling of the scout planes. That's very, very nicely done. And of course, main gun battery, you do have one more sprue for the 4th turret. Also, just like the Missouri, the Montana kit does include another nicely done laser cut mask set, so you can paint all of your deck and boats and various other bits. These were at least done in the measure 52 scheme, with the dark blue on all of the horizontal surfaces and the light gray on all vertical surfaces. So very much just like the Missouri, although being a hypothetical ship, you could paint it kind of however you want, but take advantage of all that nicely molded deck. We've got masks to show it off. And just like the Missouri kit, this one also includes a little box full of various photo etched detail parts covering railings, guns, doors, hatches, cranes, catapults, ladders, basically every little tiny detail you could possibly imagine included with the kit, including what appear to be some photo etch rigging. I assume that's for some of the signal flags. So if you like photo etch, you're in for a treat. If you don't like photo etch, look out. Unlike the Missouri, however, the Montana kit, being a slightly more uber kit, includes all kinds of turned metal parts, not limited to the main gun barrels, the secondary gun barrels, pedestals for the 20mm Oerlikons, the bollards for the mooring lines, masts masts, yardarms, and even 2 ship's bells. Various thin antennae, and what appear to be our 40mm and 20mm anti-aircraft gun barrels. Also, some very nice anchor chain. And to round it off, some resin cast blast bags for the main guns to replace the molded plastic ones. So you get much more of that sort of wrinkled, rubberized canvas look. So just crank up the detail a little bit. So combined with all the photo etch, you're not going to want for much when it comes to upgrading this kit and making it super detailed. Don't go too far. One thing I did notice initially here, our main gun barrels, we have 9 instead of the requisite 12. So 9 would be more than enough for the Missouri, Iowa class. However, Montana has 12 16-inch guns, so they probably should include a 12 pack of these. So I'm not sure if that's just a mistake on this one, but hopefully that's something they will rectify before this kit comes out properly. The secondary gun barrels, however, they do have 20. So 2 times 10, 20 for the 5-inch guns. And lastly, we've got our instruction booklet. Some beautiful big color photos of the built-up test model. Usual safety blurbage. Sprue map with all of our plastic parts, all of our photo etch parts, and callouts for all of our metal pieces, blast bags, decals, as well as the masks. Now, instructions also reference 9 pieces for the main gun, so that might be something they need to put an addendum in for. So, start right off with our secondary 5-inch guns, which only have a little bit of photo etch on them, so nothing crazy there. And of course you do have the option of replacing plastic barrel with the metal barrel, and they're included, and it's an easy swap, so why wouldn't you? Next, we've got our 20mm Oerlikons in single and twin mounts. So we've got a whole bunch of brass pieces. So basically these entire things are going to be photo etch. And it looks like you can actually pose these at whatever elevation you would like. So they're actually functional. So you get a bunch of little tiny G.I. Joes and you can put them all over your ship kit. And our gun directors, big photo etched radar, I believe that's radar dish. Got our, I guess we'll say, for lack of a better term, earlier style, the 5-inch 38 caliber guns as opposed to the 5-inch 54 caliber guns. So these are the bigger secondary turrets. These are the smaller secondary turrets. And we've got okay. They include a little jig for aligning the barrel, or I guess, correction, include a little jig so you can accurately drill the holes to replace the molded plastic barrels for the 40mm guns. That is a clever little addition, because sometimes, you know, it's one thing just to include barrels, and then you've got to drill, you know, incredibly tiny holes, making sure that they're straight and centered. But giving a little jig, that's a nice addition. See, more and more kits do that, where you have to either modify or manufacture something. They'll include some sort of jig to make that easier for you. But so if you want, you replace all your gun barrels and then put the actual quad mounts all together, right down to the little perforated old-timey farm tractor style seats that were on these, the gun shields, and even the loading machines for, I'm assuming that would be for loading the 5-round chargers. And you see newsreel footage of some of these American ships with the 40mm, and the gun crews are knee-deep in empty shell casings. Got our beautifully detailed little scout plane, anchor, searchlights, which are incredibly well detailed, carried over. There's these parts carried over from the Missouri. Got our Carly floats with the photo etch gratings in them. Our various types of open doors. So definitely not at battle stations, but adds a little bit of a detail. Right down to the locking wheel. Our beautiful brass ship's bell. Various compressed gas cylinders. Once again, they include the waterline plate, which I'm fairly certain is just used so you can have a reference on where to paint the black boot stripe. Nets for the floater baskets. Oh boy. Got our Mark 38 gun director ×2. So that's a very intense bit of photo etch molding. So we got I assume you have plastic base, and then everything else is photo etch. That is, yeah, you're gonna want to take a lot of care getting that together. Got our boarding ladder, boarding steps. Would that be considered a gangplank? Gangway. We got our big radar dish on top of the mast. So 450 channels and nothing on. And our main gun turrets, all of which are slightly different in what they've got going on. Although to be completely accurate, we should be saying A, B, X, and Y turrets, but semantics. Small gun director, and then some anti-aircraft batteries mounted on 2 and 3, so B and Y turrets only. So that'd be the 2 uppermost turrets. Some more very tiny little brass pieces, ladders. We've got our aircraft catapults, which is, I suppose, if you were kind of creating a narrative for your hypothetical 1945-46 deployment of the Montana class. You could probably elect to leave the catapults off. I mean, carrier air power being what it was at the end of the Second World War, would the ships really need their own? But hey, you know, why not? Main deck onto the hull. Props and shafts. Once again, we've got our waterline plate, and like I said, I'm fairly confident this is simply for marking the boot stripe. Boat booms, paravanes, various little bollards, details on the deck, the various winches, cable reels, even a beautifully little detailed photo etched mounting, I guess, trolley for the float plane. These kits just ooze detail, and you compare one of these to a 70s, 80s vintage ship kit, there is no comparison. Of course, we can have our anchor chain paid out a little bit, or you could have it completely retracted. Even little tiny details around the base of the gun turrets. Got our aircraft crane, which is always something well done with photo etch. More little splinter shields and other small details, ammunition lockers and anti-aircraft guns. Got some of our, you know, beautifully molded whaling boats. We're starting to get some of our railings put on. And of course, when it comes to some of these anti-aircraft guns, in reality, these are pretty much speculation. Ships were never built, so you could detail these up really however you want. So you do get a little bit of artistic license when it comes to this being a what-if subject. More anti-air, more 20mm Oerlikons, 40mm Bofors, Carly floats, oodles and oodles and oodles of little fine detail parts. We got our funnel, or smokestack, whatever you like to call it, and our beautiful turn brass mast with the yard arms and all the actual lines given as photo etch, so you don't even have to worry about training your pet spider to rig up that mast, because they give it to you in a different type of photo etch. So that's a nice little touch. Plus that's going to act as a nice secure base if you wanted to mount a bunch of signal flags or other pennants. Building it up with the various railings and catwalks. Gun directors and searchlights. Beautiful, beautiful details, and even some sort of, I'm not sure if these would be, I guess, mounting racks for something, or maybe just representing the inner structure of the shields there. That's an incredible little detail touch there. I don't even think they did that on the Missouri kit. Maybe it's not relevant for the Missouri, but that's incredible detail. Oh boy, and we've More ladders. Lockers. More of our hatches and reels. So some of these doorways are molded all the way through. Some of them are just recessed enough, so a bit of black paint in there, you could pass muster, or you could just grind that out from the back side, open it all the way up. You might want to thin out the edge a little bit just to give the, I don't think the real side of the ship there would be quite that thick. And of course, give you the nice black and white line drawings in addition to very good, clear color photos of what you're doing. So if you're looking here and you can't quite figure it out, you can see, well, okay, that's the finished part, and here's where it goes. So that's always a nice touch. And sometimes that's all they give you is just a picture and calling out the various pieces, which, I mean, that works. I mean, why not? Sometimes orthographic projections can only do so much for you, having the actual thing right in front of you. So you can at very least take your piece and hold it up and it's like, oh, is that what it looks like? Beautiful, beautiful detail. And all kinds of very delicate little detail parts on the inside of the bridge. So yes, we have a 1/350 scale ship kit. I wouldn't say full interior, but it does have an interior detail in some of the command positions where you have the large windows where you could actually see inside there. That is very impressive. So even the most persistent of flashlight wielding IPMS judges wouldn't be able to find much fault with this one. As long as you did a good job putting it together, of course. Even like wiring and plumbing runs on the ceiling of some of these pieces is included, so that is impeccable amount of detail. Detailing up our foremast, the radar dish, more of that photo etched rigging. And just looking at the pictures, that is amazing. And just be able to look through those windows and see the detail inside, that is absolutely incredible. So we got, okay, little additional sheet here for putting in all of this inner detail, whatever. Okay, I bet these are, yeah, oh my, okay. So yeah, all of these little shelves here are racks for ready use ammunition for the Bofors guns, and they actually give you photo etched 4-round chargers of ammunition to put in those ready use racks. That is amazing. That is a whole nother level of detail. lastly, we get all of our superstructure components attached to our main deck with our main guns, and we have a finished Montana class battleship. In the paint scheme, of course, same as that provided in the Iowa class kit. The Measure 22 camouflage with the blue-gray along the hull, the light gray on all the vertical surfaces, and the dark blue-gray on all of the horizontal surfaces. Of course, being a hypothetical what-if ship, you could conceivably come up with your own paint scheme, although I've always found the key to a convincing what-if subject is pulling as much real into it. So had Montana gotten into the Second World War, most likely she would have had this paint scheme, unless, of course, the US Navy came out with something different. But Larry, at least you got a guide to a basic paint scheme with options to do whatever the heck you want. Although I would say, would assume by 45 they probably would have gone with completely dark blue on those float planes, but I will leave that for the experts. And last but not least, our decal sheet. We've got our names: Montana, Ohio, Maine, Louisiana, and New Hampshire. Montana and Louisiana were the only two of the class that were started. Of course, none of them were finished because the war ended, but at least we got a little room for imagination. Got the stars and bars for our float planes and 48 star American flags. So they feel a little thick, but that's actually going to be a bonus on the names, because those were usually raised letters that would have been welded onto the side of the ship. So having a little bit of relief there actually won't be a bad thing, but on all these others, those would be painted on. So hopefully those lay down nicely. But color is good, registration is pretty bang on, so aside from being a little bit thick, doesn't look like there's much to complain about there. So, the Montana from Joyard in 1/350 scale. They definitely set the bar very high with the Missouri Iowa class kit, and this one doesn't disappoint either. Of course, there are similarities and differences between the two kits, but what they definitely share is an absolute insane amount of detail. Especially given that this is a, for want of a better term, fictional ship, that to take the extra time and effort to put all of those little details in is absolutely incredible. I mean, from, ammunition for the anti-aircraft guns down to the interior of the flag bridge, absolutely amazing. Joyard definitely knocking it right out of the park with this kit. So if you're looking for your next photo etch fix, the Joyard Montana or the Missouri kits are definitely be on your watch list. Thank you very much to Alan for dropping this kit by for us to have a look at. If you guys want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button and give us a like. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time.